today's video, I am going to be talking about repairing a blanket, and I do have an example that we will be talking about today. So stay tuned on tips and tricks on how to repair a blanket that has had holes in it. Hey there, I am Diana and I am a craft or crochet cheerleader. I like to encourage those that are working on projects, and I love to see what you're working on. So if you tag me, I am on Instagram at scrappy_warriorwoman. Give me a follow there and you can see my updated things that I'm doing throughout, crochet or craft. Today, I am going to be tackling a blanket that my great-grandmother made. So this blanket was made for my uncle, and it came home with my brother when he went and traveled to Washington State. That's where it lived. Anyway, she pulled it from a closet, and it had, the seams were coming apart, and there were parts of the squares that were falling apart. Now, this blanket is granny squares. Tips and tricks could work for any type of blanket that you're trying to repair, which isn't always the most fun. It really is fulfilling to complete a project. So the first thing that I would suggest if you are repairing a blanket is to figure out what type hook was used on the project. Now, if you made the project yourself and it's something coming back to you, which I've had in the past, so I knew what size hook it was. For the blanket from my grandmother, I had to play a little bit because number two, you have to figure out if your tension is tighter or looser than what is in the blanket as well. So I tend to crochet a little bit more tight than my great-grandmother did, and so I had to adjust with my hook. Another tip is to figure out which stitch that they used. Now, with my great-grandmother's pattern, the squares were different than the squares that I tend to make. I will show you an example of something that I have right here on my desk. So when I am making a granny square, let me see if this will focus on this. I tend to do a treble crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet, and just repeat that around. Well, with my grandmother's square, she had a double crochet all the way across, and in the corner, instead of 2 chains, she did 3 chains. And so I had to study that out. So that is just doing your homework on repairing whatever blanket that you are going to be repairing. Another tip that I would like to suggest is to see if you can match the colors of what you have to repair. Sometimes you can match it easily because it's a blanket that you've made, or the yarn is, something that you've had around for a while. But seeing as the blanket that I had to work with was made who knows how long ago. I mean, she's passed away quite a long time ago now. At least, gosh, she died at 103. And so, yeah, she was an amazing lady. But so I had to figure out how to match as close as I could to get the yarn back to what it was. And I was really impressed with the quality of the yarn, that it actually held up and the knots held up. Because she, instead of square knot tying, she would take the yarn and tie it together and there would be a big old knot. And so I tried to go through and fix all that and push them back into the square, like any of the stitches in the back or whatever. And so there's still some that are sticking out, but you know what? They've lasted this long and it's been used, so I figured that's okay. Weaving in the ends cleanly will help you to have your blanket not pull apart. And also, once you've repaired the blanket, it's figuring out how to weave it back in so it doesn't come apart again. So what I do is I will take and I will weave in the ends 3 different times. So one direction, and then the other direction, and then the other direction. And I tend to do it if it's a loose fibered blanket. I tend to weave it in through the different fibers so that it'll catch, and it works out just fine. And I haven't had any more pull out because who wants to repair a blanket? It is not necessarily an enjoyable experience, but if you know that the person really loves it and will use it, it's worth it. Last thing that I wanted to talk about is you wash a crochet blanket. You can't wash it like, you have to really be careful with it when you wash a blanket. So you'd want to wash it, on a delicate cycle and air dry it. Now, my son had a blanket that I sent to him and he just washed it because I didn't really give instructions, or he didn't remember what I told him. And so it pilled really bad. He still used it, still loved it, and there were ends that pulled out of it, and that was fine. He's an adult person, and he really, really loved his blanket, so I ended up making him another one. But just remember that when you are washing and storing your blankets, that you should really, treat them with a little bit of love, but they can sit on the back of your couch and be used and loved. But it's learning all the things that I've already touched on. And so now you're going to see my work in progress of how and what I did with this. And also here is the blanket all taken apart. That is my uncle's blanket, not my cousin's blanket, but there are, you can't really tell, but there are blocks that I think my great grandma, I don't know how old she was when she made this. The ends weren't woven in. So here's one that needs a little love, but then I will go back and just sew them all together. I took a picture of what it was before I took it apart to fix it, and then I will join it again a little bit easier than she had it done. Taking it apart was very interesting because there were several different stitches and strings and all these things holding it together. So now I will put it back together so it won't fall apart. But I'm impressed that the centers haven't pulled out, because that is a weakness of mine. I can't get my centers to stay. So beautiful blanket. And I will show you hopefully at the end of the video what this one looks like. Okay, I'm excited. I'm almost done with the tying in of the ends. I added the borders around, and now I am stacking them stacking them as like squares. So there's a bunch of random ones, the Christmas centered ones that remind me of Christmas anyway. And these look the same. This is black and this is blue, so I might put those together. And I'm trying to give it a little rhyme and reason, but it's probably gonna not be. But I have 5 of these bad boys with this fuzzy yarn, so I'm gonna lay it out here. I'll do like a little video of me laying out the squares, but I just wanted to show you my progress of what is going on. Okay, now it's mapped out, and I am going to probably stack from one corner and just crochet along like this when I crochet the squares together. But it looks like a much more cohesive blanket than before. I'll send you it's not like I'm texting you, hello. I'm going to just show you what I had before. My girls are helping me out so nicely. So there you go, and there's my fuzzy pieces. There's one there. Decided to put them on the corner, and then I was so surprised that I had 5, so there were other random ones right there. So there you go. I'm going to take a picture of it so I can remember what it looks like. All right, I've got them all stacked, and I have them numbered so I know which row goes where. And I know that it is 8 tall and 6 wide. I believe that is the right, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So it's 8 tall and 6 wide. So there we go. And I am just going to crochet them together. Progress. So I'm really excited about sharing the finished blanket. There we go. It's big. I don't know if you can see all that. I'll just go ahead and switch it and put it on the ground so you can see it. Trying to get good lighting is hard because it's big. So let me switch it. So here we go. Here is the completed blanket. No. They think that they might... Fiona, get off. Ginger, get off. Look at them. They're like, that's my blanket. No, it's not. So as you can tell, there was a little pattern where I put the orange pieces. And then I didn't have a complete set, so I put different ones. And then I put those blue. There's only one black one, but it's very similar to that. And then I took the hairy pieces. So these pieces like that. I don't even know how hairy, but, and then I had Christmas ones like that. So I made the corners the same. And then I had 2 more. So I put them catty corner. So I tried to make it more of a fluid, organized blanket, but I am really happy with how it turned out. Hoping my uncle will enjoy his new blanket. I'll come a little bit closer so you can see the stitches on it. And you can tell where some, so this is the original cream, and then this is the cream I added. It is just a hint lighter, but for being probably 40-year-old yarn and a 40-year-old blanket, it's held together pretty good. Apparently it smells good too. So there you go. If you have any suggestions on how you have repaired a blanket, or the blankets that you are working on or have worked on or have repaired, we would love to see those as a community in the comments. So why don't you drop those below? Happy crocheting or happy crafting.